ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਧੰਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ। ਆਓ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਫਤਿਹ ਦੀ ਸਾਂਝ ਕਰੀਏ। ਗੱਜ ਵੱਜ ਕੇ ਫਤਿਹ ਬੁਲਾਓ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਆਪ ਜੀ ਵਡਭਾਗੀ ਹੋ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਜੋ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਅਤੇ ਬਾਬੇ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਯਾਦ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਖੰਡ ਪਾਠ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਪ੍ਰਾਰੰਭ ਹੋਏ ਸਨ। ਅੱਜ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਭੋਗ ਪਏ ਹਨ। ਭੋਗਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਰਾਗੀ ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਪਾਸੋਂ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਸਰਵਣ ਕੀਤਾ। ਸਿੰਘ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਗਿਆਨੀ ਸੁਖਦੇਵ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ, ਗਿਆਨੀ ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸਿੰਘ ਪਾਸੋਂ ਕਥਾ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਸਰਵਣ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਜਾਗੋ ਵਾਲੇ ਜਥੇ ਪਾਸੋਂ ਕਵੀਸ਼ਰੀ ਸਰਵਣ ਕੀਤੀ। ਹੁਣ ਕੁਝ ਸਮੇਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਦਾਸ ਨੇ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਸਮਝਦੀ, ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਮਾਫੀ ਮੰਗਦਾ ਹਾਂ। ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੁਕਮ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ ਕਰੋ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਮਝ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਜਾਂ ਕਥਾਵਾਚਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਗਿਆਨੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਬਚਨ ਸਮਝ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਚੰਗੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਾਲ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਵੀ ਕੁਛ ਬਾਬੇ ਠਾਕੁਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਾਰੇ ਚਾਨਣ ਪੈ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੌਖੀ ਸਮਝ ਲੱਗੂਗੀ। So we're blessed today to be gathered in the sanctuary of ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ, the ਸਰਵਣ ਸਰੂਪ of ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ, the form of Waheguru on this earth, who we have been with for the last 2-3 days, listening to the Sri Akhand Path Sahib, Smeet Sri Japji Sahib, and today the Bhog of that Sri Akhand Path Sahib. After the Bhog, we have listened to the Vichara of the Gyani Singhs, listen to Kirtan from the Ragi Singhs, and just listen to Kavishri from the Jagawala Jatha. When Baba Thakur Singh ji first came to England or the UK in 1998, in those days there was not many youth that would travel with them. There would be a lot of elders. They would go to different programs in different gurdwara, but there was not many youth. I was lucky enough to meet them for the first time in 1999. The first time I went to meet them, I'd heard so much about them that they are the Karajgari Mukhi of Sant Gyani Jarnail Singh Ji Khalsa Pindrawale. Gursikhs had told me that they lead or do the seva of Damdini Katsal. Damdini Katsal, the Jathibandi that was started by Tan Sri Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji, our father, just over 300 years ago. When I went to see them, in my mind was, how should we greet them? They do the seva of Damdini Katsal. I've been told that they are complete Gursikhs, they are Brahmagyanis. So the only way to greet them, as Gurbani says, is fall at their feet. Fall at this Gursikh's feet, who is one with the Lord. I went to the Gurdwara. At the end of the program, when they came down the stairs, I went over to them. I said Fateh, and I tried to touch their feet. I wasn't looking at their face, I was looking down to see where their feet would be as they were traveling very fast, and touched their feet. When I went down, I felt a thud on my right shoulder. I felt somebody had pushed me back. I looked up in anger. It was actually Baba Thakur Singh who pushed me away. They said to me in Punjabi that Fateh Daloniya, don't have to touch my feet. Bow only to Tan Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the Guru of the Sikhs at this time. Straight away I realized that even though they are given so much respect the world over, we heard from Gyani Sukhdev Singh Ji, we heard from Gyani Satnam Singh Ji, how they were treated and respected as one of the leaders in a respectful way of the Panth in recent years. They were definitely treated with respect by the Singhs of Damdini Katsal or the families that were linked to Damdini Katsal. They taught me that Tan Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji is the greatest. They have so much humbleness and nimrata, because we know in this day and age, we can go to any person. Those who would like to be put on a pedestal won't stop you from touching their feet. They won't stop you from matha to them. In fact, they have people who will matha to them, will touch their feet, will give them loads of money as examples to the Sangat who might have some worries and tensions in their life and are looking for some peace, and go to those people. But the rule of Damdini Katsal, laid down by Tan Sri Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji, is number one is Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji and all forms of Gurbani, and respect and satkar has to be given to Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. I was amazed how they would have Singhs reading Bani to them. Not reading Bani themselves, which I questioned in the early days. But those Singhs that would read Bani would always be sat on a higher mantle. They'd be sat on a chair, Baba would sit on the floor. If they were both sat on a chair, they would sit on a stool, always higher than where Baba would sit. And then they would be sat on the right hand side. Because out of respect, maybe not many of us know this, out of respect, we always have somebody we respect on the right hand side. That is why when we do a Khanpar side, Sri Japji side is always on the left. If you sit behind Guru Sahib Ji, and Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji's Saru is always on the right hand side of Sri Japji side. Sri Japji side is Bani as well. They are our Guru, and there's nothing wrong with matha taking to them. There's nothing wrong with having the form of any Bani on the Manji side. Even Dasam Pitaji's Mari. as we have seen yesterday in the book of Sri Dasam Granth Sahib Ji. But Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji will always be at the furthest right, because they are our Guru and respect ultimately is to them, but we still respect the Bani, which is part of the body of our Guru, the form of God in this earth also. So they will always have the same on the right hand side. I was lucky and blessed enough to be able to stay and spend some time at Damodari Taksal. And when I went there, Babaji was on their tour of India. They were in Bombay, they went to Hazur Sahib, they went to Palai, where Gyani Satyanam Singh was talking about an occurrence that happened with them. And they were travelling the south of India, and it was just before Holla Mahalla they came back to Punjab, and they came back to Mehta, Gurdwara Gurdarshan Prakash, where Sri Damodar Taksal at that time was situated. My room had been moved close to theirs, and in fact I lived above their room where they would stay, or on the floor above where their rooms were and the Singhs that would live with them. The rule at Damodari Taksal is for everybody else to wake up at 4 a.m. at the latest, and if they're not, they are all awoken to do their Shnan, read their Nitnem, and then partake in Sankhya before going in to listen to Asadivar and the Gurbani Katha that happens every morning. And as Babaji had just come back, and I joined Damodari Taksal, I would think to myself at that point that somehow I want to be noticed by them, as maybe we all would. I woke up at 4 a.m. one morning, and when I went downstairs to walk towards where all the Singhs would do Shnan, which was the other side of the complex, Babaji and all the Singhs that were with them were already awake, and they were all doing Nitnem. Some Singhs were doing Nitnem, Babaji had the Singh on the right hand side and a higher platform doing their Nitnem. And I thought to myself after a few days that I'm not going to get noticed like this, because everybody's already awake and already doing Nitnem, already reading Bani. Maybe I should wake up a little bit earlier, they might notice me, I might be able to impress them. So I woke up at 3 o'clock. I went downstairs, ready to go for a Shnan. Everybody was still awake. I woke up the next day at 2:30. Some of the Singhs were ready to wake up, but Babaji still had 5, 6, 7 Singhs with them, already doing their Nitnem. In my mind, I thought this is getting very difficult, because that was within the first couple of years that I had taken Amrit. And when we take Amrit, we know we are taught to wake up Amritalillah, that it can be very difficult. And then we get impressed inside sometimes thinking why I haven't been able to wake up, and we beat ourselves up. But sometimes when we're new to this path, it's better just to be strong in our Nitnem, as Babaji would always say to everybody. The key word that I remember, the key words that I remember more than anything is Bani Paro. Those 2 words is which still goes through my ears in their voice, because that are the 2 words that they said most of, because most of you that have seen them, or the elder Singhs and Singhaniya that are here, that saw them in England, or know them from India, would know they wouldn't hardly speak to anybody. If you'd come and visit them, you'd say Fateh, they'd have the Singh reading their part, and you'd sit down in the Sangat and have to listen to part. Even if you have a problem or you want to speak to them, you may not get a chance to speak to them for hours, and by that time it'd be time to go to the Gurdwara, and you have to go to the Gurdwara. And the day might go and you haven't spoken to them, but what you have done is listen to all the parts that they have got the Singh reciting. So I woke up at 2 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, there's still 3 or 4 Singhs awake, and Babaji's still awake. The next day, I wake up at 1:30. And there's still 2 Singhs with Babaji. By the end of the week, I thought I'm not going to go to sleep, because I'm finding it difficult to wake up in the morning. I want to be noticed, I want to impress them. And I stayed up all night. I waited till it was 12 o'clock. 12, so I had actually gone from 4 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then every half an hour or 15 minutes, working backwards over a week period, and made it to 12, 12, And when I went at 12:05, there was one Singh reading Bhat with Babaji. I went to do Ishnan, I came back, Babaji had let that Singh go to sleep. Babaji had done Ishnan themselves, and they were reading their own Nitnem. So in those first days, I never actually saw them sleep. Bhai Gurdas Sahib tells us in their Bani that a Gurmukh eats little and sleeps little. In my time, just under 5 years that I spent with Baba Thakur Singh, and everybody who has spent time with him will tell you, there were times when they never ate for weeks. There were times when they never slept for weeks. They lived the Jivan of a Puran Gursikh as they were. I went to Holla Mahalla with them. I was excited at that time. My first Holla Mahalla. We got on their bus because Babaji travelled India in a bus or in a coach. The Sangat from Bombay had given those coaches or bought those buses in the 70s for Sant Gyani Kartar Singh Ji. And over time they've been developed and new ones have been bought. And in those days, people from Bombay and still now are very, very rich. And they said, we'd buy you a car. Because different sons from different sampradayas had cars, Mercedes even in the 70s. But Sant Gyani Kartar Singh said then, don't buy any vehicle because I'm not driving in a car. If you want to buy something, you buy a bus. Not for me, for the Sangat to go on these yatra and to the programs that we do. And so those buses weren't even Babaji's, they were for the Sangat, and when they would travel, they would fill them up with Sangat first before they would sit in their own coach or the coach that was for them to go to a program. So Sangat would always travel with them. I managed to squeeze a seat on the coach. I got to Holla Mahalla Sri Anandpur side. And at that point, I'm one of the Singhs. I'm expecting to sleep in a room. But again, for the Sangat, they emptied out all the Singhs from their quarters. And the Sangat who travelled to Anandpur side to celebrate Holla Mahalla, they were given all the rooms. The Singhs had to sleep on haystacks, on top of trucks, under trucks, anywhere they would get, in the parks, anywhere they'd get an opportunity to sleep. I spent 3 days there. Because it was my first Holla Mahalla, I ended up visiting all the Gurdwara. I ended up seeing the Gataka that was going on, going to the stadium. And then that night, at the end of Holla Mahalla, everybody got back on their coaches and came back to Mehta. We came back, I got quite ill. I got Jakam, because obviously we were sleeping outside. And that's when it's still cold in India. And I remember, I thought to myself, waking up in the morning, that I can't wake up in the morning, and I stayed asleep. And I thought, I'll do it now, no one's going to know. No one's going to notice. I stayed asleep. I stayed asleep, I could hear the katha going on, 8 o'clock in the morning, and when the katha finished, my door was knocked. Babaji's calling everybody. And I thought to myself, I haven't even done Ishnan yet. 5 minutes later, another door came because I opened it from inside because I'm worried now, thinking I need to do my Ishnan. I quickly jumped out, went and had an Ishnan and went to where Babaji was calling everybody. They called everybody on top of the Langar hall. And they said, they called the whole of the Jatha, as it was called. All the Singhs that are staying there, 300 Singhs are called on top of the Langar hall. And they said to all the Singhs, we just come back from Holla Mahalla last night. Those of you that haven't been to Katha in the morning, I want you to stand on that side, and those of you that have listened to Katha stand on this side. And obviously the Singhs split. And in my mind thinking, I'm going to get in trouble here, because I haven't been to Katha. I stood still for a while, then I thought, I can't lie here, everybody's splitting, I'm going to have to go on the side that, I haven't listened to Katha. And then Babaji started questioning us. They said the most important thing is to listen to Katha. And I used to think, why doesn't Babaji speak to anybody? Babaji said the Asul for Dhamma Taksal is, if you want a question answered, you listen to the Katha. Because it's Sri Guru Granth Sahib is speaking to you at that point. Even though the Gyani is doing Katha, I'm translating what Guru Sahib is saying, it's actually Sri Guru Granth Sahib is speaking to you at that point. And your answers or your questions will always be answered there. So, any saint who stayed in Dhamma Taksal and anywhere afterwards, Babaji would always say, you do not miss Katha in the morning and Katha in the evening, because that's where you're going to get your bakshish. That's when Guru Sahib is speaking to you. They further told us that at Anandpur Sahib, one of the Gurdwara, because there was open pandals, and if you've been there, you've seen different Gurdwara and Maharaj's Prakash everywhere. One of the Gurdwara, where Maharaj's Prakash had an open pandal, in other words, there was no walls, and obviously air was coming in and out, and it was quite windy then. And Babaji told us that the air or the wind had blown off Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji's Ramallah Sahib. And all of us that were stood there were questioned, do you know this happened in one of those Gurdwara? And everybody said no. Because we must have all been enjoying ourselves at Holla Mahalla. Babaji said it's one of the biggest biyalis that happened, and I'm so sad that none of you, Vidyarthis of Damandevi Taksal, started by Sri Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji for the respect of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji and the teaching of Shodh Path and the understanding of the Gurbani. Nobody was there to put that Ramallah Sahib back on. They told us all to do, or they gave us tankha to all do part. They asked every single one of us, what's your nickname? The ones who said that we do 5 Granthi nickname, or we do 25 Japji Sahibs, or 51 Japji Sahibs, 8 Sukhmani Sahibs every day, Babaji said, Tan, you guys are fine. The rest of us that said, we just about do our nickname in the morning. They said, you have to do this much part. Asking for forgiveness for the biadbi of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. There are many stories we can share about Babaji. Later on in England, one time Babaji would go for walks. They started walking on a road, and they started walking on an A road in the opposite direction, so the cars are facing and driving towards Babaji. There was 2 Singhs, one Singh on the right reading Bani and one Singh on the left hand side. And there was a group of Singhs following on the footpath, and they were laughing at the 2 Singhs, the one doing the part and the one on this side, that you are walking in the road and the cars are coming and they're horning at Babaji. And Babaji just kept moving. They kept pushing both of the Singhs, keep walking. The Singh on this side and the left hand side would stand, because obviously the cars were coming there. The cars, they might hit the three that were walking. Babaji pushed that Singh back and said, what are you scared of? Are you scared of these cars? 3 police cars had gone by and they never said a word. Everybody else was horning, swearing. Are you guys gone mad? Walking in the middle of this A road, 50 mile an hour speed limit. Babaji said, what are you scared of? The Singh started laughing, who were walking on the footpath. Babaji looked back, called every single one of them, you start walking as well. And they put all them in the front. Babaji said to everybody at that point, there was a group of 10, 15 Singhs, why are you scared? Sada Raja. And what they meant was that this Raj on this earth is the Raj of the Khalsa. It's already the Raj of the Khalsa. But we haven't realized it because maybe we are not living up to being the Khalsa. If we lived up to be the Khalsa, maybe the Raj would be with us already. Babaji said, somebody asked him, why do you come to England? You just read Path all the time. Babaji said, the point of us coming around the world is to do Prachar of Gursikhi. There are many Sikhs in the UK, still haven't taken Amrit, still haven't got their case. And some of those Sikhs are here. They were mourning and Babaji helped keep their case. Some of them have taken Amrit. And those others that were already Amritari at those times, all Babaji would say would be Bani Paro. Rahat Rakho. Because the key to Gursikhi is once you've taken Amrit, is not to stay there, is to then further keep your head strong and develop your head. There was a time when 5 Singhs went to see Babaji and do Benti to Babaji. And the Singh said, there's 5 Singhs here. They're doing a hukum to you. Babaji started laughing. They minded the Benti of those Singhs, but they also questioned the Singhs. They said, you've come in the form of 5 Singhs. The key rehta thodi. Are you pyar karte aap? What nickname do you do? Showing the Singhs that fine, I'm going to mani your Benti, but it's not just about putting 5 Singhs together and that's Guru Roop. It's about keeping your red, doing your nickname, and living to the teachings of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. We heard from Gyani Sukhdeo Singh Ji. We heard from them saying that Sant Guru Bachan Singh said that Baba Ji, when it's your time, you decide. Then you think to yourself, then why did Baba Ji leave this earth? Why did he stay with us longer? There was a time when Baba Ji actually left their physical body, and if you want, in our sense, died. They were in Ealing Hospital in London. And the doctors had said Baba Ji had died. Those of us that were there in those days knew they were ill in some of those days. And the doctors had said they've died. They turned the machines off. And there was only 2 Singhs present at that point. They thought they died. They said you can have your last words with them. And then we're going to have to come and do all the paperwork. Within 5 minutes, Baba Ji got up and said Fateh 5 times. And said whatever's happened has happened. We can go now, everything's fine. They pulled the wires off their body and said let's go. Let's leave this hospital. So they actually could leave and go whenever they pleased. And when it was pleasing to them, obviously they left this earth. The Prabandhaks obviously have given us Saropa, and that means my time has come to an end. I'm sharing these with you, not to say that all these things happen to me. Anybody can sit here, from those of you that stayed with Babaji, and you can share ultimate stories, because Babaji wasn't just one person, they were everybody's. They were Sangha for everybody, and everybody's got a story to share about Baba Thakur Singh. The last story I'm going to share, and then I'm going to pass the stage on, is because there's a lot of youth here, and a lot of youth do a lot of seva in camps. One time I went to a camp, I was going to a camp, it was actually in 2004, and Sikhi camp had stopped for a few years, and it was the start again of Sikhi camp. I've only shared this with 2 or 3 Singhs since that time. And I met Babaji on the way. The camp was going to be in Bristol. Some of you might have attended that camp. I met Babaji at Willinall Gurdwara. They took me to the house they were staying at. They were at Harjinder Singh's house. And they said to me, where are you going? Why do you stay with me? I said, I'm going to go to a camp. I was excited about going to the camp after a few years. And they kept me there till 10 o'clock at night, and then I drove. It was the day before the camp, and then we went there and we did the camp. On the way back, I thought I better go back to Babaji. They said to me, when you finish the camp, come back. The first question they asked me when I came back to see them, by then they'd moved to Leicester, how many people took Amrit after that camp? And I couldn't give an answer. I smiled. I thought, what can I say to them? I said it wasn't that kind of camp, because we do camps and we've done camps for years, and maybe we haven't focused on taking Amrit in camps, and we just tell a few Satya and we get everybody involved in Sikhi. Then Babaji said, alright then, it wasn't that kind of camp. How many people kept their case? I said, I can answer that. It was 2 or 3 that kept their case, because obviously the Sevalas would tie the star on the people that kept their case. And Babaji said, was that all? How many people went to the camp? I said it was over 100, 150 in those days. Obviously we had camps where there's been 300 people. And he said, only 3 or 4 kept their case. What were you doing there? Did you tell them about the Meri Sakhi of Guru Sahib Ji, the sacrifices of the Sahibzade? Did you do prachar to tell them to keep their case? And I said, well, I must not have done. Babaji says, whenever you do prachar, whenever you do a camp, you must tell it how it is. Because that is the only way we're going to get Khalsa Raj. You must tell the Sangat to keep their case. You must remind them about the Sahibzade that we've been celebrating, the Vadde and the Shote. You must tell them that they made our foundation strong, and that is why we're living today. You must tell them to keep their case, to take Amrit. And whatever prachar you do, doesn't matter what you talk about in the Sama, if you leave those bits out, then your prachar is worthless. Because that is the point of Sikhi. The point of Sikhi is to keep your case, is to take Amrit, and then once you've taken your Amrit, as Babaji would say to everybody, Bani Pado. Over the years, a lot of people did Nindya of Baba Thakur Singh. But they've been doing Nindya of Tuksal from Baba Deep Singh. The agencies have always done Nindya, the Sarkar until Sant Gyani Sundar Singh, Sant Gyani Kartar Singh, Sant Jarnail Singh and Baba Thakur Singh. But they have never wavered, or never walked separate from their path. They kept strong and said, Bani Pado, inna to ki lana. And not one person could come to their face and say anything. Everything would be behind their back. I could continue sharing, like many of you guys could. I apologize to the Prabandhaks, I've probably gone over a couple of minutes than they wanted me to speak. They were everybody's. If we celebrate the Barsi, I believe we should celebrate their teachings and try to follow what they taught us, because if we follow what they taught us, maybe then we'll get their khushiyan. We get their khushiyan. We get a khushiyan of a Puran Gursikh. What more do we want? And I'm sure we'll get the blessings of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. I beg for forgiveness. मैं माफ़ी चाहना थोड़ा जिहा समा वध हो गया ते खीमा दा जाजक बनदा हां जिन्हां नहीं समझ आई वो ज्ञानियां तो पहला बाबा जी ने कुछ वचन सरवण कीते सन कई साल तो सरवण करते हैं देव सजन शीशरियां जो होवे साहब समेत लेखिया कथा ने छुट्टी अखिन गिन भूलनहार बख्शनहार बख्श लै नानक पार अवतार वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह।